Good morning, and welcome to Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation, where love and community are at the heart of each of our services. I'm Bobby Bollinger, your worship associate this morning, and I'll be co-presenting with our guest speaker, the Reverend Grace Burford, our pianist Lena Hubin, and our wonderful AV tech Martin. We hope you have been enjoying yourselves on this more than toasty July 4th weekend, either with all of the raucous activities going on in town, or perhaps in a cozy, cool cocoon in your own homes. This is the mission statement of our congregation. We are a compassionate, spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. Visitors are welcome here, and we invite you to join us after the service for coffee and lively conversation in Davis Hall. We'd love to learn what brought you here this morning and be happy to answer any questions you may have about us and all of our various activities. Those of you who are here on Zoom will have a chance to connect with one another through the breakout rooms at the end of the service. Besides the announcements on the screen before the service, information about our congregation's activities can be found in the Weekly Peak, our monthly View newsletter, and on our website at prescottuu.org. Children over the age of 5 are invited to join weekly classes across the street, taught by our Children's Faith Development Coordinator, Sandra Palacios, and a nursery for children under the age of 5 is here in this building. We now join Unitarian Universalists worldwide each week in the tradition of lighting our chalice. Our chalice lighter this morning is Mary Ann Clark. Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, yet the life of that candle will not be shortened. And so may the light within each of us shine and envelop each other in kindness and love. We are very happy this morning to have the Reverend Grace Burford with us. Grace grew up and attended schools in southern Kentucky, the Philadelphia area, and also in Thailand, and then obtained her master's and doctorate degrees in Chicago. She has been a professor of religious studies at Georgetown and James Madison Universities and at Prescott College since the age of 27. Her teaching and publication specialties is Buddhism. Grace's spiritual practice combines music and time in nature with insight meditation and other practices she first learned from Theravada Buddhists in Thailand. She has served as a Dharma teacher, a Buddhist chaplain, and is an ordained Buddhist minister in the US-based Insight tradition. You may have seen her at the Highlands Center for Natural History as a volunteer certified Arizona master naturalist, or at the Natural History Institute leading nature walks that she calls mindful meanderings. Grace has been a guest speaker here at Granite Peak, also at Prescott UU Fellowship and the Sedona UU Fellowship, off and on, since she moved to Prescott in 1997. Welcome back, Grace. Let's sing. You'll find a meditation on breathing in your teal hymnal, which is hymn number 1009, and the words will be on the screen. Lena?
Hello, hello, hello. Yes, we are going to be practicing a little bit today for this meditation. The whole service is intended to be calm and meditative. So take a deep breath and we will start. We have two parts. We have, I think they'll be coming up here eventually. We have the drone part, which is the part underneath, breathe in, breathe out. And we have the melody, which is when I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. And Lena will lead you in the melody, and then we will do a run through on the drone, and then we'll do it 3 times together. I'm sorry, I should hold it up here. Yeah. So Lena's going to lead us. I'm sorry, I'm pointing all over. Lena's going to lead us with the melody, and this side is doing the melody. We are the drones over here. Okay?
Okay, melody first.
Is her mic on?
When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. That's it.
Let's do it.
Drone.
Do it again.
What?
Do it one more time. I think they didn't hear you the first time.
Okay.
Okay.
When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Drone.
And the drone is pretty simple. It goes like this. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
Now together, 3 times, both parts, all the way through.
3 times
Here we
together.
go. When I breathe
in,
I'll
breathe out.
When I breathe
Breathe in,
I'll breathe out love.
out.
When I breathe
Breathe in,
I breathe.
breathe out.
When I breathe out,
Breathe in,
I'll breathe
breathe
out love. When I breathe I'll breathe.
breathe out.
When I breathe
Breathe in,
I'll breathe out.
breathe out. Thank you.
Since we're warmed up by that song to meditate, I'd like to lead us in a meditation right now. So keep breathing. So to prepare yourself for meditation, whether it's in a singing form or as we're going to do now in a quiet form, it's good to take a special posture with your body. And that's special to you. It kind of signals to your body that you're about to do something different. And that can be an upright position so that you feel that energy flowing through your body, but also relaxed. So upright and relaxed is sort of a dignified posture. So if you'd like, you may close your eyes now, bringing attention inward. I think of this as dropping into the inner landscape. You can feel your body. It helps to kind of concentrate your attention on the meditation if you just notice where your body is being held up. So held up by the chair, by the floor, your feet on the floor. Just really settle into that awareness. Letting the body relax and keeping the mind, heart present. Taking a few deep breaths, just at your own pace, just a little deeper than usual, so you can feel the whole body breathing. Then settling into your regular breathing, just mindfully follow your breathing. Breathing in, breathing out. And I'd like us each to take a moment, just still in that inward landscape, welcome yourself to what is happening right now. I invite you to welcome all of yourself, not just the bits you approve of or think others will accept. And now turn that accepting, welcoming outward to everyone around you, silently welcoming everyone to this time together, those physically in this space and those joining us on Zoom. And maybe letting it leak out into the whole wide world.
As you gradually open your eyes, let's say together the words of our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this congregation, the quest for truth, its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, thus do we covenant together. Our beloved community is the heart of this congregation. As we experience a time of meditation and music, we'll take a few moments to silently acknowledge the joys and concerns of our heart and of our minds. If you've had an event which moves you to joy or sorrow, hope or gratitude, you may honor that feeling by coming forward and silently dropping a pebble from the bowl into our communal waters. The ripples created by your stones will roll out and are shared with our hearts. If you would like for a joy or concern to be shared with the congregation, please let me know and I will relay it to them. I will start by placing a pebble in the bowl for Drew Potter, who is in the hospital following a fall. And now let's join in singing our words of support, Walking with You. Walking with you, walking with you is my prayer. Our beloved community supports this congregation throughout the year with our gifts of time, talent, and treasure. Your gifts to our morning offering support the programs and operating expenses that enable our congregation to move forward and thrive. Additionally, Granite Peak gives back to the greater community each month through our Seeds of Support program. And July's recipient is the 27th annual Empty Bowls, which will be held at the Courthouse Square on Sunday, September the 8th. This community-wide event is sponsored by our congregation and the Prescott UU Fellowship. And for a small donation, attendees choose a handcrafted bowl and enjoy a simple meal of soup, bread, and water. All proceeds go to local food banks to feed those who are experiencing food insecurity. Following Grace's words, this morning, the morning offering will be taken.
Giving is a big part of Buddhist practice. And I wanted to share with you a couple of readings about giving from Buddhist texts. So here's the first one. The setup for this is that the Buddha is in the woods meditating, and he's approached by what we might call a tree spirit. Just think of it that way. And this being asks the Buddha, this is in verse, I should give you a heads up. Giving what does one give strength? Giving what does one give beauty? Giving what does one give ease? Giving what does one give sight? Who is the giver of all? Being asked, please explain to me. And the Buddha responds, giving food, one gives strength. Giving clothes, one gives beauty. Giving a vehicle, one gives ease. Giving a lamp, one gives sight. The one who gives a residence is the giver of all. But the one who teaches the Dhamma is the giver of the deathless. And this other reading, again, a verse. Just as a pot filled with water, if overturned by anyone, pours out all its water, and does not hold any back. Even so, when you see those in need, whether low, middle, or high, then give like the overturned pot, holding nothing back. Thank you.
We acknowledge the generosity of spirit expressed through this offering. What is given in love is received with much gratitude. Blessed be.
Thank you all for your generosity. It's good for you. It's good for the world. So if you're closely following the order of service, I have a few changes to make. This is not Bobby's fault. I actually changed things after we put all this together. So what I'm going to do is lead the guided meditation first. And then I'm actually going to fold the readings into my message. And they're not going to be from the middle-length discourses. Sorry. So, okay, with that disclaimer, we can carry on. So again, a meditation. This is probably the central spiritual practice of Buddhism, to meditate. And I'm going to talk about that a little later. But I just want to say that before we do this meditation, when I prompt you to invite ease throughout your body while sustaining an upright posture with some balance to how you're touching the earth. We do this in order to keep the attention present. So often if you're, I don't know, sometimes for some people the mind wanders while you're trying to keep your attention on your breathing. And when that happens, as soon as you're aware of it, it's like, congratulations, that's great, you noticed. So then what can you do? Well, back to the posture that reminds your body, this is what I'm doing now, and we can do those other things later. This generates a feeling of confidence and inspires energy for the meditation itself. So we'll begin. I invite you to take a meditation posture. And if you're comfortable closing your eyes, please do so. Bring your attention inward, feeling your body, noticing the points of contact of your body and the chair, your feet on the floor, anything else you might feel. Maybe even the feeling of air on your skin, noticing sounds. And taking a few deep breaths, just a little bit deeper than usual. You can become aware of your whole body breathing. Then releasing that element of control, just let your body breathe each breath as it does. Mindfully following each breath as you breathe in and breathe out. conclude this meditation, I invite you to notice any degree, no matter how small, of a feeling of being more present, more here now. Enjoy that. You can feel that appreciation all over the body. Noticing how even a little peacefulness affects your understanding of what is happening. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. I've been practicing and studying meditation formally, let's say, since 1975. But that's nothing compared to the history of Buddhism, which is over 25 centuries long. And not surprisingly, in that time, Buddhism has changed. And as it spread geographically and over those many centuries, there have been different forms of Buddhism that have been developed. If I were giving you, as I have in the past, I think, given you a talk about the arch of history, the arc of history of Buddhism in the world, I would begin by laying out for you the three major branches and then how a couple of those branches break into a bunch of different schools. So anytime anybody says to me, I know something about Buddhism, or I'm related to somebody who knows something about Buddhism, I say, what kind? And often they'll say, oh, is there more than one? So yes, there's more than one. So what kind of Buddhism am I going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about early Buddhism as it's preserved in one of those three major branches, the Theravada, which has been practiced in South and Southeast Asia for over 25 centuries. Now it's everywhere. And I will be reading from the scriptures of that tradition, and those are preserved in the language called Pali. It is an Indo-European language directly related to Sanskrit. And so we refer to their body of scriptures as the Pali Canon. And I just can't help but mention that if you've done Wordle this morning, it's that word. So often in my classes, when I was teaching about Theravada Buddhism, I would show a film. And one of my favorite parts of this film was an interview that they did with a very highly respected scholar monk in Sri Lanka. And they asked him something like, what's Buddhism? And he immediately replied this way, which sort of flummoxed the students for a second, because this is what he said. Sabba papasa akaranang kusalasa upasangpada sachitta pariyoda parnang etang buddhanang sasanang. And he had this lovely smile on his face when he was doing it. And then he didn't stop there. He repeated, Sabba papasa akaranang, doing no evil. Kusalasa upasampada, engaging in what is skillful. Sachitta pariyoda panang, purifying one's mind. Etang buddhana sasanang. This is the teaching of the Buddhas. Why is this the teaching of the Buddhas, you might be thinking to yourself? At the heart of this tradition is the aspiration to end suffering for all beings. And the Buddhas have discovered that this, doing no evil, engaging in what is skillful, purifying one's mind, is how we can do that. That's how you do it. So this is the summary that this monk offered. Doing no evil, literally this line says, not doing, akaranang, sabba papa, all the papa, all the evil, all the things that are not good, namely actions that stem from greed, hatred, and ignorance. Engaging in what is skillful, kusala is this word skillful. It's probably my favorite Pali word. And it means skillful, wholesome, good stuff to do. Kusala is acting from non-greed, non-hatred, and non-ignorance. But why is purifying the mind in there? Why is meditation so important in Buddhism? For that, I have a reading for you from the Dhammapada. Oh, that verse that he recited, that I just recited, is also from the Dhammapada. But I'm going to read you two verses that are actually the first two verses of this text. It's a very beloved text. A lot of lay people love it and have it in their homes and memorize parts of it. So it begins this way. All experience is preceded by mind, led by mind, made by mind. Speak or act with a corrupted mind, and suffering follows, as the wagon wheel follows the hoof of the ox. All experience is preceded by mind, led by mind, made by mind. Speak or act with a peaceful mind, and happiness follows, like a never-departing shadow. So the condition of our mind is key here. That's why developing mindfulness, cultivating skillful awareness, is important. It's at the center of how we transform ourselves into reliably ethical, peaceful, non-harming beings who no longer experience suffering ourselves or cause any suffering to others. It's an ideal, for sure. I'd like to note at this point the emphasis Buddhism places on action rather than doctrine or a creed. And I can't help but notice it's a bit like your covenant. There are a lot of verbs in your covenant. And it sounds like you're focusing on doing rather than beliefs and specific views. So in that way, it's a lot like Buddhism. So it's not surprising that Buddhism offers what I am calling today a toolbox of practices. Practices the Buddha taught to help us learn how to avoid doing evil, how to engage in what is skillful, and how to purify our minds. So the Buddha taught that wise people do not act with body, speech, or mind in ways that harm themselves, harm others, harm themselves and others, or harm the world. I put this as, try not to make things worse. That's kind of entry-level practice, and maybe we'll just all stay there for the rest of our lives, but try not to make things worse. It works in meditation, it works in life, it works in relationships, all kinds of things. With further practice, we might get to how to do no harm. And eventually, we can even make things better. for ourselves, for others, for ourselves and others, and for the world. For most of us, I think it's fair to say we don't always think of our own welfare, the welfare of others, and the welfare of the world every time we act with body, speech, or mind. Well, why not? I mean, if we'd like to be this way, why aren't we? It takes a certain amount of clear seeing to understand what's happening and how we can benefit ourselves, others, and the world through our actions. And maybe we just don't see that clearly, at least not yet. Why not? Sometimes we're just not paying attention. It almost seems like we forget or lose sight of what's important to us. It's not easy to pay attention for humans in this life. So many competing wants and needs, not to mention compelling distractions pulling us here and there, inviting our attention to various things. And when we put our energy into those various things, it dissipates our energy. That's not surprising. I'm sure you've noticed that. So we just don't have the energy to sustain our attention on acting skillfully. Now, you might be thinking of yourself and maybe someone you know and thinking, oh, they're on their screens all the time, or I'm on my screens all the time, I can't keep up with my emails. And just before you think that this is just a modern problem, remember, the Buddha taught about this over 25 centuries ago. So we might think of that time as a much simpler time, and surely it was easier, but it must have been a problem even then. So it seems there's no time when everything has been or will be simple and easy for us. I had the great good fortune of, when I was teaching at Georgetown University, I invited a well-known Sri Lankan monk, Bhante Gunaratana, to come speak to my class. And one of the things he said that still sticks with me to this day is, he said, waiting for it to be simple and easy to meditate is like the person who goes down to the beach and says, I'm going to go swimming when the waves stop. So why don't we just gather our energy up and focus our attention on what we're doing and see whether what we're doing is going to cause harm to ourselves, others, or the world. Well, maybe we just don't know that paying attention would make this better. That's possible, except you don't have that excuse anymore. So, to recap, a wise person is one whose actions benefit themselves, others, and the world. We aren't always wise because we get distracted and we don't sustain our attention in the present. So we don't see clearly, or we don't understand what it would take to live this way. We don't direct the energy it would take. We don't make the effort to sustain our attention and see clearly, because we might not know how valuable this practice is, how it is the key to helping us live up to our aspirations. Or even if we suspect this might be the case, we don't think it is. I mean, we think it is, but we don't trust the possibility enough to actually put a lot of effort into it with confidence in our ability to do it. This holds a lot of people back. Or confidence that this is a worthwhile way to go. And I'm thinking of the many, countless people who say to me, I can't meditate. Oh, that's another talk. But let me just say, if you're one of those people, I can't either. And yet I've been doing it since at least 1975. So I must have some confidence that this is going to turn out well. Anyway, here's where we could use the set of tools that I promised to talk about today from the Buddhist Toolbox, the 5 indriya-s. This word indriya, it's a Pali word, and it reflects a connection with the god who was the ruler of the gods in the culture of the time of the Buddha. And the story about Indra was that he had conquered all the demons, and so he was in charge of the gods. And so indriya-s has a kind of significance of being in charge, of guiding us, of giving us some direction in what we're trying to practice. And so we might think of them as our inner capabilities. It's usually translated faculties, which is a little dry for what this is. It doesn't really get that energetic part. But it does remind us that we have these qualities already. We don't have to go find them somewhere else. So we use them, we might think of them as our strengths, our support for living and acting the way we want to. We have these qualities, we use them all the time, but we don't necessarily use them in a spiritual way. They become spiritual qualities when we use them to free ourselves and others and the world from suffering. So what are the 5? The first one in Pali is saddha. This is almost always translated in text as faith. And then it's immediately followed by anybody who's teaching about it with the explanation that, no, it's not what you're thinking. So why we keep translating it faith, I don't know. Confidence, trust, where we're going to put our effort and energy, what are we going to rely on? And so like a non-spiritual use of this would be trusting that if I just go get an ice cream cone, I am going to feel so much better. In a spiritual sense, what we put our trust in, what inspires us to practice is different from that. We can put ourselves wholeheartedly into this practice. So you can see why it's listed first. It's like, oh, this. And it gives rise to the second one, virya, energy. This is when we say, yes, this is not just a good idea. I'm going to do it. This mindfulness thing, so I can pay attention and really know what's going on and act accordingly, this is the thing. I'm going to do this. Okay, so that's the second one. The third one, or we might call it the middle one, is sati, or mindfulness. Also can be translated awareness, which is good because it kind of gets us away from mind, like thinking. There's nothing in the word sati that has anything to do with our minds. So it's an awareness. I mean, we have awareness all the time. I mean, that's not news. But the advantage of the current popularity of mindfulness in all things is that it reminds us that there are ways to be aware and there are ways to be aware. So this practice is bringing us fully into the present. Now, that current popularity of mindfulness might lead you to believe that that's all that you need to do, just mindfulness. And you could make an argument for that. But in this list, it's in the middle. It's the third one of 5. So we go on from there with our mindfulness that's inspired by our confidence and energized by our effort, leads to, if we keep doing it, leads to being able to sustain our attention, sustain our mindfulness. I like to think of this word, samadhi, usually translated as concentration, and then immediately explain that that's not exactly what you think of as concentration. It's about sort of the word I like is composed. You're composed. I'm doing this because you're gathering in all those bits of yourself that have flown off. And you're like, I'm all here. I can sustain my mindfulness in a calm way. And then in that condition, we come to the fifth one, panya, wisdom, which means what you think it does. This is a great translation of panya, wisdom. As we become composed, we begin to discern what is kusala and what is akusala, what is skillful or wholesome to do, and what isn't. This gives us confidence in the practice, which inspires us to make an effort. We sustain our mindfulness, we calm, we see better, and around we go with the 5 indriyas. Do this enough, and our faculties can turn into our superpowers. Okay, I'm going to beg your indulgence, take a little bit of time to give you an analogy, because as great a talk as this has been, you might not remember it, but once I give you this analogy, you'll have something to kind of hook into. Developing the 5 capacities, the indriyas, to learn to act without harming ourselves, others, or the world is like learning to float in a lake or a swimming pool. I mean this literally. It's like learning to float. I remember learning to float when I first took swimming lessons, and I was very, very young. Itty bitty. I remember experientially in my body that as the instructor was holding me up in the water, the first thing she said to me was, relax. Relaxing like this in water is difficult, especially if you don't know how to swim. But if you thrash around in fear, you will never learn to float. So relaxing is crucial. Some trust in who's telling you to do it and holding you up while you do it is helpful. But just intending to float and relaxing the body is not enough to keep us from drowning. We must learn additional skills and practice them to become adept at floating, as I did. I'm quite good at floating in the water, even to this day. Like floating in water, practicing to end suffering, bringing how we act into closer alignment with our ideals, requires intention and trusting the process enough to relax. Let go into the process. It also requires effort. If you just sit there all relaxed and calm, you will sink. So, again, we could talk about the 5 hindrances. That's a different talk, too. Anyway, sinking is one of them. It requires effort. It requires work, putting energy into cultivating mindfulness, developing the skill of being present, of composing ourselves so that we're all there, we're all here, for seeing clearly and discerning which actions of body, speech, and mind are wholesome, skillful, and which ones are unwholesome and unskillful. So I'd like to take just a moment for us all to close our eyes and kind of process, if you will, what I've been saying. Now I invite you to gently bring to mind any wish you have that what you do in your life will benefit yourself, others, and the world. May this talk on the 5 indriyas inspire and benefit you as you travel your spiritual path. Thank you. You can open your eyes. So I want to say a couple of words about the closing hymn. The words to this hymn are actually an excerpt of a Buddhist text. And the melody is not Buddhist. It's from an ancient Christian sort of, well, okay, we won't go into the music history of it, but it's old. It's an old kind of chant kind of melody. And Buddhists tend not to sing. No singing in our services. So chanting, yes. So this is a nice amalgam, and it was available in your hymnal. So we're going to sing it. You may not be familiar with it. I know there are a couple people here who do know this. I invite you to sing out. Oh, and I should say, I've sung this here before because my wife Lori and I used to sing with a group, and I think that was a hospice choir at Caritas. And we sang this here. I don't even remember why, but I remember standing up here and singing that with that group. So anyway, I invite you to join in. Oh, it's the wrong number.
It's 184.
It's 184. And I think, is this the one where the screen might be confusing?
Yes.
Okay.
The little verse is on 3 different screens.
Yeah.
We show them 3 different times, so we're going to go through it 3 times, one word.
It's very short,
Yeah.
and yet it's on 3 slides. This is the conundrum. So if you don't have to look at the slides, don't look at the slides because it might be confusing. But we'll try to keep up with the slides because we're going to go through it 3 times. Yes. Okay. Go, Lena.
This is just a little introduction, and then by the time we're done with 3 times, maybe you'll kind of know it. Oh, yeah, you need it.
I don't actually need the music. I know this really well, but here it is. Okay. Just,
Here we go.
Confidence, hold to the truth within yourselves as to the only lamp. Be lamps unto yourselves, be your own confidence. Hold to the truth within yourselves as to the only lamp. Be lamps unto yourselves, be your own confidence. Hold to the truth within yourselves as to the only lamp.
Thank you, Grace. It's always great to have you here with us. We appreciate your message this morning. Buddha is attributed with the saying, "If anything is worth doing, do it with all your heart." At the end of the day, may you be at peace because your intentions are good and your heart is pure. We'll extinguish the chalice at this time. Please join me in saying these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Before we migrate into Davis Hall for coffee and conversation, I would invite any visitors or people who've been away for a while to stand and introduce yourselves if you are comfortable in doing so. Any visitors here this morning? Yes. Wow, look at all the visitors. This is wonderful.
I'm Sage Lewis, and we're part of the Insight Meditation community with Grace.
Wonderful. Nice to have you here, Sage and Sage and James. Welcome. Nice to have you here.
I'm Bev Sonnen. Bobby's my sister.
We've had a great week together. Thanks for being here, Bev. And yes,
I'm Jim. And I'm Cheryl.
And we're also members of the Westcott Insight Meditation. And enjoyed the service immensely and the graciousness of this congregation.
thank you. It's wonderful to have you both here. Welcome.
I'm also a member of Insight Meditation, and thank you very much for a beautiful service, and thank you, Grace.
Thank you for being here. We'd love to have all of you stay for coffee and conversation if you're available to do so.
Will you tell them I'll stick around if anybody has any questions?
You have what?
I'll stick around.
Oh. Thank you. You're all such a big part of my life. Thank you very much. So today I'm going to conclude the service with the words that my father, a Unitarian minister, concluded all of his services with for over 25 years. And now may the blessings, if I can get through this, and now may the blessings of the just and the merciful, your own sense of righteousness, and the eternal glory of life be your strength and your peace, now and in the days to come. Amen.